Hey guys, it's Adam from APN. First off, I want to give a shout out to my mother. Moms are always going to be moms. I'm from Florida originally, and Mom, thanks for the cool shirt. You can't see, a bunch of little pink flamingos on it. That's what I call Florida camouflage. If you want to be a gray man in Florida, get a shirt like this. I also want to say a big shout out to TJ, Pastor Joe Fox, RW, Bruce, Jason, Stacy. You guys are awesome. We had a meet and greet event up in Hiwassee, northern part of Arkansas, yesterday, put on by RW. You know who you are. And there were at least 50 people there, if not more. And a wonderful group of people, very successful, I think, meet and greet, and just shows how people are wanting to come out and bond together. But anyways, at that event, I felt compelled, because I've known about something for many years and assumed everybody else knew about it, about a process called nixtamalization. And I'm going to do a video on this. I did a presentation there, but essentially what it is it's used widely to this day in South America, and it's a way of processing corn to get all the essential proteins and vitamin B3 out of it that you need. Most people don't realize it. They haven't heard of nixtamalization, and they don't realize that the dry corn that they're storing could essentially, at one point in time, cause them a huge health issue. That health issue being pelegra, P-E-L-A-G-R-A. Look it up. A little history behind it is back in the day when the Native Americans and things like that showed the newcomers to this United States of ours how to eat corn and process it and make food out of it and make it a primary part of their diet. They showed them this process of nixtamalization, which is essentially boiling the corn in lime, wood ash, etc. For a period of time and letting it soak. That in turn releases the vitamin B3, which is bound to the corn molecules itself, and also releases and negates mycotoxins and other things that the corn will have absorbed in the growth process. This vitamin B3, which is also known as niacin, is an essential part of our diet. We do not get it anywhere else but through our diet, and our bodies depend on it. And when we don't have it, it causes us to have a vitamin B3 deficiency. I know you guys heard of B12 deficiencies and etc. If not, do some research on it. It's interesting. But when you have this vitamin B3 deficiency, your body goes into a mode where actually your skin and all other parts of your body, even your mouth, if you've ever had a cold sore or something, it's essentially like a third-degree burn. And it's pretty nasty. It's pretty painful. And so this process negates that. Well, the Europeans, when they took corn back to Europe and Africa and all those areas, they kind of left that process in the good old United States back in the day. And essentially what happened was they were just eating the corn the way it was, not doing this process, and a widespread epidemic of this pelegra started to happen. And I can only assume from what they saw, they would liken it to the plague. Because literally, if you look up pictures, it looks like something like somebody has third-degree burns either on their face or the measles or their hands, arms, entire bodies. So I'm sure they were quite fearful of it and couldn't figure it out. I forget the history on where they did figure out, hey, we need to do this nixtamalization process, which is basically boiling in lime to release this vitamin B3. So I encourage you. I've known about this for about 10, 12 years. I assumed everybody else knew about it, and every time I bring up the word, they look at me like, "What are you talking about?" It's important. It is extremely important. I can't stress enough how important it is that you do this process or learn about it. Because essentially, if we ever did have to get to a point where we're delving into our buckets of food, it's pretty bad. And if you are subsisting on primarily corn in your diet, rice and beans, I'm sure you'll go for the rice and beans first, and essentially, probably you might end up just on corn. That might be all you have. Well, it could lead to this vitamin B3 deficiency, which leads to this pelegra, which can also lead to death. We all talk about, a simple scratch in times of austere situations can lead to a major infection, which can cause you death. So you got to think along those lines. Imagine a vitamin deficiency and you have no other way to get it. So I'm going to have a lot of pauses in this video because I'm going to go through the process of making this and show you guys how to do it. And the other benefit that I want to stress about this, if anybody has ever ground dry corn, you know how difficult that is. But if you've ever watched any videos or anything of people in South America grinding corn on a stone, it doesn't look that difficult. And there's a reason for it. Because the corn they're grinding has gone through this process and has been softened. And I'll show you that. I'm going to grind some of this corn actually with a chopping knife. I'll grind it up into a rough grind, and obviously I could go into a finer grind, and then we're going to literally make a corn cake out of it. So hold on to your hats. Thanks for the shirt, Mom, and I'll be right back with more of this episode. Okay, guys, part 2 of nixtamalization. You're going to have to bear with me. I'm using my cell phone, so I'm having to hold it in an awkward way. But let's start this out. Essentially, the process in nixtamalization is taking dried corn. I'm using field corn at the moment. As a matter of fact, I'm using deer corn, and that's a whole other topic people can talk about. But let's get into the process here. Is taking the dried corn and at a ratio of, say, 3 quarts of water, 1/2 cup of lime. You can use ag lime, you can use pickling lime, which is what I'm using right now. And there's also a process of using wood ash to make lye, and you could use that in a hard circumstance. But what we're doing is 3 quarts of water, 1/2 cup of lime, and we're getting that to a boil. Our corn is in there. We boil for 15 minutes at a high boil, and then we turn it down and we have a high simmer for about another 20 minutes, and then we turn it off and just let it set for 4 to 5 hours. I did this process yesterday. I have started a new batch today to show you. It's right now, it's in the cool down process. It's only been there for an hour, but we'll get the camera over here, and what you're looking at is just basically a pot of corn that's been soaked in that lime water, and it gets a skin on top, but I'll stir it around a little bit so I can get a better view there, and it's just soaking right now. And what that does is it helps release the outer skin that's on the corn, and it also helps it release the vitamin B3 from the other molecules that it's bound to in the corn. Also releasing any toxins that the corn has absorbed in its growth process, or the natural myotoxins that are in the corn naturally. So you're not putting those into your body. You're able to absorb more protein. As we all know, if we've eaten a lot of corn, sometimes we don't absorb it, and y'all know what I'm talking about. So it has a lot of benefits in that direction. So essentially, like boiling beans, that's all you're doing, but in lime water. I'm going to move over here, and hopefully I don't blind you with my light. But yesterday I set up a display of jars. Please excuse my videoing, I'm having to hold it differently. At the different stages. And what you see here on the first one is the dry corn. This is some lime water on the second one that has settled a little bit. My third one, which is right here, I put out for a display for people to hold. That is the corn after it has soaked for its full time, and it still has the skin on it and stuff like that, and I'll show you how to process that. And then we have essentially what you would call canned corn. It's cleaned, it's washed, but it's been nixtamalized, and then a rough grind, and then actually a dough. I'm going to go through that process with you guys. And like I said, I apologize for the video. I'm trying to, I don't have a professional camera. I'm trying to use a cell phone that's kind of cooperating. But we're going to put you on pause again, and I'm going to set up for the next scene, and we'll take it from there. Okay, guys. What I have here is the corn after it has sat for 6 hours, and it is moistened. And I don't know if I can get this on video, but it's kind of it's just got gunk all over it. It's like a gelatin. And this process right here is important because what you're doing is you're washing the corn, but you're removing all the pericardium. No, that's the heart. The outer skin of the corn. And it's just real simple. I have a sink full of water here, and you're essentially rubbing it between your hands. Now, I'm sure on a large scale basis we could come up with a more efficient way of doing this for large amounts, like a tumbler or something like that. But it's not that difficult to do this, and especially if you're making a batch for a small family, even in busy and hard times. And on this small amount, you know, I would do it, I don't know, what am I, about 8-9 times into it, just rubbing it around, and I'll stir it. And what you're doing is, it's like the skin becomes like a gelatin, and you're essentially just getting that off. And yes, I have it in a colander, and you're wondering, well, how can you get that out of there? It comes off. You can see it in the water. The water is kind of murky looking right now. And then after that point, I'll essentially just wash it off. Now, at this point, a lot of people, and when I refer to people, I'm referring to this day, South America, Mexico, all them areas. And I encourage you to watch tons of videos on how to make tamales and how to make tortillas the old way. What they'll do is they'll let this dry out, and they'll save it, and then from here they'll grind it, and they can make a cornmeal, masa, things like that. But if you want to go right into making a tortilla, a corn cake, or something like that, I take it right from this process right here because it's already wet, it's cleaned. And I'm going to go ahead and hit pause again and set up, but that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to hand grind it, in other words, with a knife, not a grinder. I'm not at my homestead right now, so I don't have the luxury of having those things, but I want to show you, you can do this just with a knife, a roller, and that's it. So let's poke you on the face here on Facebook. Okay, guys, we're back. This is the corn I washed. Cutting board, parchment paper, butcher's knife, whatever you want to call it. My favorite knife, rolling pin. All right. Essentially what I'll do at first, and usually I use a little bit tiny batches, but I just want to mush the corn a little bit. I'm not rolling it, I'm just breaking it a little bit up. I'll roll over it just a little bit. That's what I do there. Okay, I've just mushed it up a little bit. But when I say grinding, if I wanted to get like a cornmeal grind, I could do this forever. I would honestly start out this way. And this is going to get me a very rough grind. And when I say rough grind, essentially like that. But from that, I'm able to make a dough and work with it. And this is all I'm doing right here on a cutting board, just like you would chop whatever you would chop in your life. And I'm not going to show you this whole thing. I'm probably going to pause it here in a second and then jump forward after I ground it up a little bit more. But what I'll do is I'll do some chopping. and break it up like that. Now, imagine trying to do this with dry corn right off the bat. Ain't gonna happen, man. Ain't gonna happen. And I'll chop a little bit, and then I'll roll and squish. And then I'll break it open. And you don't have to use a piece of parchment paper. It just keeps the rolling pin a little bit cleaner since this is moist. And I'll just continually chop. And I'll do this process over and over until I get it to the grind that I want. Now, you're going to say, oh, that's a long process. Well, if you're telling me this is a long process, then obviously you haven't ground dried corn over and over and over again. So I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to continue through this chopping process to get to the grind I want. Hopefully it turned out on video well, and I'll come right back. Okay, ladies and gents, we're back. Get my thing a little bit here. So I've just continued chopping in this manner, just like you would, and I think you can see that we're at a rough, looks like scrambled eggs almost, very rough grind. And it's very moist and soft, actually. So at this point, what I'll do is, and this is the process I continually did. I did some chopping, flipped over the parchment paper, I did a little mashing, rolling, and what I'm doing here, I'm going to do this, this is going to be my final rolling time. And what I'm doing is you're kind of mixing it together a little bit. And you can see it comes out crumbly, but you're just continually mushing it together. All right, so let's get on to making some good old corn cakes. You wanted to make tortillas. Maybe I'll do another video on that. It's a little bit more of a process involving some flour and stuff like that. But honestly, at this point, with this consistency, most of them, people would let it dry out, and save it for later. It's like a very rough cut cornmeal, and store it. But I'm showing you right through the same process right here what I would do to make corn cakes. What I like to do, and like I said, this is a whole nother discussion. People have asked me. I store deer corn. It's cheap. I store a lot of it for either dog food or other things. Things get bad enough, I'm going to eat deer corn. I don't care. That is my last resort corn stock. I'm going to do a video in the future with a very knowledgeable gentleman on GMOs. That was a question we had at the meet and greet. Do I store non-GMO corn or why? I'm going to give you the answer I gave them. If I have to go into my food buckets, it's been probably a year or more since I've used up my other stores, and I'm not worried about GMO. If I have to get to that point where I have to go into my buckets of corn, GMO is not on my mind. I will eat the skin off of a rat if I am at that point. So I'm not going to let GMO stop me. So anyways, let's carry on. Okay, here we go. We have our very rough ground by hand mill. Normally, I'm doing this the hard way, and really, this took me an extra 2-3 minutes. That's the hard way. I'm at home in times of goodness like we are in now. You can use a food processor. I can do this whole process from washing the corn to getting a dough in a food processor in under 2 minutes. So anyways, I'm here. Any of you that have eaten field corn, it's very corn tasting and very blah. Me, something this size, I would add, I'm only adding half of this, so I'd say it's a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar to it. Gives it a little nice sweet taste. And any oil of your choice, I'll add a little oil in there. And what I will do is I will kind of chop it in. Make this process a little fast because I'm taking up the valuable time of you guys. And I don't want to do that. I want to teach you something so that you learn it, and then you can go on with your life, because I know we all have a lot of things going on. I'll go from there, and maybe like a hamburger patty. I don't even have to use the roller. I could. I'll roll it a little bit, get it mixed in and mushed in good. I don't roll it too thin. I mean, that's a whole nother process. Boom. Okay, I'm going to hit pause, bring you over to the pan I have preheated, and we'll go from there. Okay, we're back. I've got a pan here. I got a little preheated. Put a little oil in it. Now, if y'all have never done this, I'll be right back. I'm taking the corn that I ground up off of the parchment paper, and literally, like you would do cookie dough or something like that, I am forming it into just like a cookie dough ball. And I've had this on low. I'm going to crank it up on high, and you can hear it. And I'm just making like a hamburger patty that I will put in there and let it start going. So, at this point, it's just a matter of cooking. If you know how to cook, then you've got it covered. It's like cooking anything else. I'm going to mash this out a little more. And what I'll do, we did put oil in it, but I'm going to put some more oil on it. And you can use whatever you want. That's olive oil that I'm using. And I've got a little oil on that side. I want to flip it quickly, even though it's falling apart. I'll bring all this back together. And just cook it that way. And you can go thinner. I've gone a lot thinner. I'm just sticking at this, and I'll put it on high, and you can see it smoking a little bit, but as it's cooking, I'm just releasing the edges. Now, granted, I'm not in a cast iron pan, but you can do this on anything. You know the deal. I'm not here for a cooking show. I'm here to teach you about nixtamalization. So we're going to let that set for a little bit. I'm going to turn you around here. This is interesting, because I have my cell phone with tie wraps on a tripod that totally belongs to something else. And while I'm talking to you, I'm going to kind of keep track of this thing here and then show you the end result. But I can't stress enough the importance of this process. Because like I said, when I started out doing this full-time, prepping, learning, researching, 15 years ago, I grew up a prepper basically. I'm from Florida, Hurricanes, Marine Corps, etc. I came across the term nixtamalization on survivalblog.com. It's a site that was originally started by James Wesley Rawls. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He is a very good source of information. And I filed it away in my brain. And I got on a rabbit hole search, as I call it. We all know what that is. We get on the internet or YouTube and we look up one thing and something else interests us, and we keep going on these paths on how to make tortillas with nothing but a stone. You know, the old ways. You know, a stone oven and a flat rock and start from scratch. And it reminded me about nixtamalization. And I knew about it for a few weeks now, and I kept meaning to make a video, and so here it is, because it is life or death important to you. You may not think so, but try and think far enough ahead that you've gone through all your canned goods, you've gone through your dry goods, you're down to rice and beans, you're supplementing with a little bit of your corn, you're 2 or 3 years out, your garden's doing okay but not great, and you have to get through the winter, and all of a sudden your rice and beans are running out, and all you have is this deer corn or dried up corn. Play that scenario in your head. So imagine you're eating this corn as a large part of your diet. Maybe not all of your diet, but a large part of your diet. And all of a sudden, you're getting cold sores in your mouth for no reason. We all know those hurt like hell. You're getting skin rashes, blisters, and you're trying to figure out what is going on, man. And then those skin blisters open up and you get infections, and we're years down the road, and there's nothing to treat infections with, and you die. Simply put, you got to play those scenarios in your head as harsh as they sound. So, with just the simple process of putting your corn in a pot with lime, boiling it for 15 minutes, simmering for 20, and letting it set, and then processing it from there, you can avoid all that mess. One less health issue you have to worry about. So, that's my little preaching for the moment. Please pass this video on. Share the heck out of it. Share the heck out of the word nixtamalization. Share the heck out of the word pelegra. Nixtamalization. I have to look and spell it. I stink at spelling. Nixtamalization. The disease that it causes if you don't do this process. Pelegra. Pelagra. Share it. Please. This is important. I don't see it anywhere out there in the prepper world. I can't stress it enough. I'm going to hold this up to see if you can see it. Look up pictures. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. These are some pictures of what pelegra can manifest as. They're not pleasant. I wouldn't want them, that's for sure. I have a handout here that I gave out at the meet and greet that RW put on. Stand by, I'm kind of burning my corn mush here. Yeah, that's not pretty, I burned it. Oh well, I can't walk and talk and chew gum, that's why they named me Squirrel. But, please, if you have any questions about this process, comment below, I will answer you. Give me thumbs up, give me likes, give me shares. I want this information to be out there in mass because it is very important. Anybody that has a South American ancestry probably knows or remembers this process from one of their family members if they have close generational ties. We're going to do another cooking type thing here in the future on rice and beans. We can only eat rice and beans so much, but if you season them right with the right recipes, you can sustain yourself a long time on that. All right, guys, this is APN Adam out of here. Again, I want to thank everybody that has mentored us at APN. TJ Morris of the YouTube channel Squid and Bear, Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness on Patreon. I want to thank RW, aka John Snow, for putting on his meet and greet up in Hiawassee, in the very northern western corner of Arkansas. It was wonderful. 50 people showed up. I hope on the next one we get 100 people. I also want to put a plug in that we are having an event, a day-long event, October 20th at Devil's Den State Park. If you need information on that, please contact me. We have no definite schedule yet, but we do have people, presenters, and things going on. I will get a schedule out there. Again, thank you very much for your kindness of watching our videos. And this is a lot longer video than I've ever made. I usually keep them around 5 minutes, but I thought this was that important. You guys have a wonderful life. Stay safe. And keep on learning, and keep on researching, and try not to get overwhelmed. Just bite the elephant off one little piece at a time. If you get overwhelmed, step back. All right, Squirrel out, APN Adam out. You guys have a great day.